You can write the best book in your field, hire the best editor, and even design a beautiful book cover. However, if you miss really this one piece of your book launch strategy, you risk slipping quietly into the background and being one of the books that has a lot of momentum really quick in the first few weeks and then slips away. And nobody wants that for their book. So, in today's episode of Your Path to Book Publishing, I'm sharing one thing that I see over and over again that most nonfiction authors overlook in their launch and how you can avoid that. This is Your Path to Publish. I'm your host, Zach Christensen. For the past decade, our team has guided authors just like you to find the best path to publish your book, get people excited to buy it even before it launches, and to turn it into the ultimate business card to build your business and your legacy. If you are ready to get your book out of your head and into people's hands, you're in the right place. Let's dive in. So I recently got on an author consultation call, they had done everything right leading up to their book launch. They invested in a professional ghostwriter and editor to make their book the best that it could be. They got a beautiful book cover designed, and the interior layout looked awesome. They did have a bit of a strategic plan for launching their book. They had reached out to people and said, hey, my book is coming out and would love for you to be a part of the group that helps me to launch the book. So essentially a launch team. And they had gotten advice on setting up ads. And so they had, I would say, a pretty decent launch plan. But when launch week came, it wasn't what they had expected. They leveraged their personal network and they had bought a lot of books. And so during the first few weeks, they sold a couple hundred books, which isn't too bad, and especially for the network that they've built up over their career. Now, why was it this way? Well, when I asked them how long they had been putting the launch plan together and engaging with their audience, they said, oh, it was around a month. Because they had missed this one thing that I believe actually fuels the momentum of your launch, they thought the launch started on release day. But in reality, the launch begins long before your book ever goes live. And in some ways, even before the first full chapter is fully written. I see this again and again, and it's often the reason that book marketing feels harder than it needs to. So in the beginning, when you're writing your book, most authors will focus entirely on the book itself. It's not a bad thing to do, but you get so focused on just the book that you forget about what's coming. And it's an intensive process. You're editing, getting things formatted, designing, you're making all the important decisions of what goes into your book and figuring out, how do I get this book out into the world? And it's easy to put your launch on the back burner. And the thing that you tend to forget is you don't think enough about preparing your audience for your book. There's so many distractions, so many opportunities in our world today that it takes repeated reminders, touch points, and effort to get someone's attention. The assumption is that readers will show up once the book is published, that if you build it, they will come mentality. But in book publishing, momentum doesn't start after launch. It starts before. So if you haven't gotten it already, the one thing is audience engagement that starts in the pre-launch phase. And I believe that this is one of the single most overlooked parts of the book launch strategy is your audience engagement. Now, most authors will hear that and think, oh yeah, pre-launch. Yes, that's where the foundation gets built, your author platform and putting everything together. And that's part of it. But pre-launch engagement is what turns strangers into readers who are excited to click buy and read your book on day one when it arrives at their house. And furthermore, engagement doesn't end once your book is out. It trickles throughout every phase of the author journey. In pre-launch, you're laying the foundation, you're building anticipation and giving readers a reason to care about the book, a reason to know why it's for them and what they'll gain and benefit from your book. And launch week, you're deepening that connection by celebrating with them and giving them a role to play, whether that's giving reviews, shares, reading your book, joining a book club that you're sponsoring to help people get into the book and understand the concepts and principles, whatever it is that's in your plan. And post-launch, you're continuing the conversation with stories, lessons, and ongoing content so your book doesn't fade after the first few weeks. And without the pre-launch foundation, though, all that later engagement feels really rushed or forced. And that's why this early step is the one thing that makes the rest possible. So now you're probably wondering, well, how do I weave this into my launch strategy? And what's the timing? How do I go about that? Well, that's what we're going to jump into right now. So how exactly do you do it? I always recommend starting at least 3 months. If you can do 6 months before the launch, if possible. And what you're doing at this point isn't as intensive as what you'll be doing leading up to the launch. And it can be really fun. You invite your readers to be part of your process, part of the writing process, part of the research process. So for example, you can do a poll about different title or subtitle options. You can share the chapter you're writing or what you're struggling with getting with the editing and just sharing your experience. It's a way to market your book without really marketing the book, because in a way, you're being a storyteller. You're telling the story of writing your book to your audience while telling them what it's about. Another thing you can do is create small touch points along the way that make your audience feel like they're insiders. And what this will start to do is to separate those who are truly interested in your topic and will help be super promoters for your book. And if you're short on time, even a single focused post or focused channel for your post can work. So if you have an email list, focus on your email list or just one social platform like LinkedIn. A smaller but engaged group will do far more for your launch than having scattered and feeling like you need to be everywhere with inconsistent efforts. Now, I understand that those of you listening may be thinking, well, what can I do about this? My launch is right around the corner. Well, don't panic. Your launch in your book is not lost. You can still do this as a faster version of this, and it might need to take more of your time. So even if you have 3 weeks to go, you can do this with consistent audience engagement. Share a few personal stories about how you got to where you are with your book. Show a chapter preview. Have an early reader group of your book so it feels like they're on the inside and getting access to exclusive value and information from your book. It's all about figuring out what's going to be of value to your audience. And the only way you can do that is by taking risks, by offering, by engaging, by direct messaging, by asking your audience what it is they're looking for. And as you've written your book, you'll have already an understanding. And if you engage early enough, you'll have a deeper understanding of what words, what ways you can position what you're offering with your book and how that will resonate for people and capture their attention. And do it in a way that's authentic because you know the value that your book will provide. So here's my challenge for you today. Take 5 minutes, just 5 minutes today, and write down one way that you're going to consistently engage with your readers before your launch date. It doesn't have to be huge. It can be something small that can create momentum. Once you figure this out, I'd love to hear about it. Send us a direct message on our social channels or reach to us out via email on our website. And if you found this episode helpful, make sure to follow the podcast and connect with me on LinkedIn. I share strategies every week to help nonfiction authors publish, launch, and market their books with confidence. Remember, a book launch isn't just about release day. It's about the weeks and months leading up to it and how you can carry that engagement into every phase of the author journey. So as a reminder, that's the one thing many authors miss. And if you can get this right, you're going to set yourself up for a much stronger launch and longevity for your book. And on next week's episode, I'll be telling you why I told an author not to self-publish their book. So go out there, keep writing, keep building your brand, and building out the book that you know will have an impact. Thank you for listening today.